Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Essay. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei fall in love with Yuuto Kiba? Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Aika Kiryu had been friends with her for a while, but all she did was be perverted with her, looking at guys' manhoods, and giving her lewd advice on how to court Yuuto Kiba, the school's pretty boy and Issei's crush. They never really hung out as actual friends except on rare occasions. Rainer, however, decided to be her friend, asking her if they could hang out on Sunday, and she accepted, much to Aika's disapproval. Their rivals, Mitsuda and Motohama, were jealous that she could hang out with Rainer, but shipped them, much to her disapproval. However, the day turned to hell when she transformed into a fallen angel and impaled her with a light sword. She was then revived into a devil, unaware of the change until she asked Aika if she remembered her, which she hadn't, and Mitsuda and Motohama never remembering her either. Then she noticed the real change when she could see light in the dark while she and Aika were watching an 18+ yaoi anime. Then she ran away from there and discovered more of her new powers before being attacked and almost killed at the park by another fallen angel. She was later revived by Ryaswa was in her bednicht. Issei was never attracted to females, so it was both shocking and weird for her. After Rias explained everything the female pervert needed to know, she was then accepted into the occult research club and saw that Kiba was a part of it as well. She had hoped to work with him, despite the fact that she was just a pawn and he was revealed to be a knight. But hey. She can talk to him well, she always acted nervous whenever she talked to him. Plus, whenever they hung out together at the school, most of the girls would get jealous, except for Aika, who would give her lewd advice to charm him and make him become her boyfriend. She didn't want to go that rowdy, at least, not at the moment. She then met Asia, a stray nun, and became friends with her. However, she went to a client's house to see that it was a trap, the priest almost trying to kill her. Then it turned out Asia was with the priest, but never knew what they really did. After trying to protect her, the priest was about to sexually assault her, making Issei snap and telling him to let her go. However, he decided to kill her first since she annoyed him. She suddenly had her clothes sliced in half by his sword and get pinned to the wall with his sword under her chin. She began to cry, feeling helpless. Then suddenly Kiba came out and saved her, making her relieved and tear up a little. She was happy that Kiba saved her from the psychopathic priest. He wasn't alone though, everyone else in the Gremory household came to save her too, and they did, but had to leave Asia behind. However, when she was upset, Kiba actually tried to comfort her with a hug, which worked. And after she left the clubroom to go home, he followed her, much to her surprise, and cheered her up by comforting her more and saying that he may help her save Asia, making her feel so happy and more attracted and closer to him. She was lucky that a handsome man like him actually cared about her and was willing to help her. After the incident with the fallen angels and reviving Asia into a demon, plus making her move into the Hyoudou house, there was the familiar finding, which turned into a fiasco when the slime got the girls. Issei managed to kill them, and while doing so, Kiba got a glimpse of her half-nakedness, blushing and looking away to give her some respect. Then there was the attempt of trying to get Issei to form a contract. Kiba became involved in it because he wanted her to get a contract as well, so he and Rias made a promise to her that if she gets a contract, she'll do whatever she likes to him. Though it was broken after the attempt, Yuuto did give her a warm hug and told her to never stop being herself, giving everyone the idea of how he feels about her. Finally, there was the incident with Riser Phoenix. Everyone went training on a mountain, of course. But after that, when she was nervous for the raiding game between the Gremory household and the Phoenix household, the blonde-haired male, before heading into battle, kissed her forehead, telling her that they will win and be okay when the battle was over. It was confirmed that Issei indeed had romantic feelings for him, and to the rest of the peerage, Kiba has the same feelings for her. Asia and Rias talks to her about her crush on him in the clubroom while the pre-preparation for the game was going on. When the plan Rias had was failing and almost everyone was dying, Kiba died alongside them as well, but only to save her. It caused Issei to boost her power enough to transform her weapon and actually eliminate Riser's queen and only bishop. Though both sides were surprised, she was weak in magic, thus making her almost defeated by Riser until Rias resigned. After losing, she was in her bedroom with Grafia telling her the bad news. She asked if anybody was fine, which she replied with a yes and no. She worried about Rias, who she saw as an older sister. Gathering up her courage, she crashed the engagement party and told Riser to challenge her one-on-one to cancel his engagement to Rias, where she succeeded embarrassing him during the fight. After being thanked by the red-haired female herself, Issei was congratulated by everyone else, including Kiba, and was able to get his full appreciation. Rias now lives with her and Asia, all three of them acting like sisters to each other. Rias and Asia slept in a different bedroom so that they wouldn't bother her when she was sleeping. But they both always liked to tease Issei about Kiba since it was confirmed she loved him. Both were supportive though, and also gave her advice to how to get together with him, some advice she would actually take seriously. Of course, there has been rumors flying around the school about her doing perverted things to Kiba. To make it worse, Mitsuda and Motohoma also spread rumors about her and the ladies of the occult research club secretly doing lesbian activities with each other. At least Aika defended her that she hadn't done any lesbian activities with the ladies of the club, but she was curious about Issei was doing perverted things to the school's pretty boy, which she denied every time she asked. Then came the recent Excalibur crisis. When the occult research club held a meeting in Issei's room, her mother brought snacks and a photo book with her as a child. It was really embarrassing for the female pervert, but everyone thought she was cute in the pictures, especially Kiba himself. However, he then saw a picture with her and Irina as children with a holy sword in the background, causing him to change the way he was feeling, making Issei concerned about him, even though he practically tried to shrug it off. But the change in his demeanor showed as they hunted down a stray demon. He seemed out of it, almost getting himself killed before Issei saved him with her sacred gear. After the stray was extinguished, Ria scolded Kiba, making him apologize and leave. The brown-haired female tried to talk to him about how he was feeling, but he talked her down politely before walking away. It made Issei more worried about him. Soon, she learned about Holy Swords and Project Excalibur, which Kiba had forcefully participated in when he was human. She felt terrible for him and wished she could help him. Zenobia and Irina arrived as well to retrieve the stolen Excaliburs. But after claiming to leave the household after hearing about the Excaliburs and even fighting the crazed priest who had one of them, she offered to help him, much to the entire club's surprise, even Kiba. But even though he thanked her for the offer, he told her that it was his battle and he wouldn't want her to be hurt because of it, so he had to face it alone. It broke her heart. She wanted to help the blonde-haired male, everyone in the club knew as well. Issei and Kaneko then teamed up and brought Saji of the Satiri Peerage with them to temporarily ally with Zenobia and Irina to stop the priest and the man behind the Excalibur swords. They then met up with Kiba, much to the female pervert's relief, and asks to join up with them to help him beat and retrieve the Excaliburs. He first denies them, telling them about his past in depth and more about Project Excalibur. He was lucky to be found by Rias before his death and get reborn into a demon. After he told them about it, Saji, who was reluctant to help the ladies at first, cried at his backstory and was willing to help to them. Kiba, actually chuckling a little at his reaction, then decided that he'll team up with them. Issei thanked him and without a second thought, hugged him tightly. Everyone but Kaneko was surprised she did that. With a smile however, he hugged her back, thanking her for never giving up on him. Later at night, they all disguised as priests and went to the place where the Gremory Peerage defeated Visor. They then found the crazed priest, making Kiba fight him and keeping him away from the brown-haired devil. Issei even used her boosted gear to give him more power to defeat them. But then came Valper, the man behind Project Excalibur. Kiba was pissed off and tried to kill him, but he and the priest disappeared in a flash of light. However, as Kiba, Irina and Zenobia left, Issei barely had time to join them as Rias, Akeno, Sora and Tsubaki arrived to punish her, Kaneko and Saji. After that, there was no contact from Kiba or the two girls. But then, Ria's familiar spotted Irina badly injured by the priest. After getting her to safety, the two peerages encountered the priest and Kakabiel, a cadre-level fallen angel. He mouthed off Rias and planned to initiate a war between angels, devils and fallen angels once more. Alper and the priest, Freed, was creating a magic circle in the middle of Kuo Academy to help him do that. The Satiri Peerage decided to put a barrier around the school so that the destruction of the town was inevitable. Akeno contacted Ria's brother, Surziches, to provide backup in case the Gremory Peerage fails to defeat Kakabiel. Issei was still worrying about Kiba, hoping he was okay. Kaneko told her that he will be fine, since he was with Zenobia. She also hoped Zenobia wasn't flirting with him. The peerage then engaged in fighting with Kakabiel, but had to defeat his watchdogs, Cerberus. However, they were overwhelmed, especially Issei herself, whose sacred gear was practically useless against it and was charging anyway. However, when she was cornered by it, Zenobia killed it, saving her and providing her backup. She was able to reach Rias and Akeno with full power, transferring it to them. But then, a Cerberus dog was chasing after her, Asia calling out her name in fear. However, multiple swords take the beast, Kiba appearing in front of her. Everyone, especially Issei, was glad to see him again. As she thanked him for it, he told her that he wouldn't let anything happen to her and apologized for leaving without her. She, of course, forgave him and hugged him once again. Although, the hug was short-lived when Kakabiel spoke and dodged Ria's powerful crimson attack. Not only that, the magic circle was complete, making the cadre-level fallen angel more stronger and setting a time bomb for the town. Rias and Akeno attacked him, but he combined their powers to defeat them. Akeno was saved by Issei herself and was set on the ground with a red-haired devil. Everyone saw that Kiba was walking towards Valper, ready to attack him and get his revenge. As he lunged for him, Issei and Kaneko ran to stop him before he gets seriously hurt, but Kakabiel shot light energy at him, exploding and forcing both girls back. The pretty boy was unconscious on the ground, making Issei cry and run to him. "Kiba-kun," she shouted in sorrow as she stopped and knelt beside him. "Kiba-kun, are you okay?" She nudged his body, getting no response from him. "You were able to dodge a direct attack?" asked the five-winged fallen angel. "You're a quick little rat." Issei's light brown eyes began to water. She turned to the fallen angel and shouted, "Damn you." "Freed," he said. "Yes, boss?" the psychotic priest asked. The brown-haired female looked at him in horror. "Use the Excalibur with the power of 4 swords to eliminate these demons." Got it? Issei feared him after what he had done with her when she tried to save Asia. Freed tried to lung for Issei and Kaneko. Suddenly and thankfully, Zenobia attacked him, but he dodged it and almost attacked her before she quickly kicked his face. They both engaged in a battle while Issei stayed beside Kiba. When Zenobia couldn't lay a finger on him, Kaneko decided to help her and kick the crazed priest at the face. Kiba began to move however, making the female pervert feel happy. "Kiba-kun," she cried out. He tried to stand up but then fell, Issei catching him. "It's okay. I got you." She saw that he was panting and sweating. "I have heard of a subject getting away," Valper said, walking towards them. The two devils looked up at him with daggers in their eyes. But to hear that he has become a lowly devil, he stopped in front of them. "I'm actually grateful for you guys. Thanks to you, I was able to complete the project." Both of them looked at him in shock. "Complete?" Kiba asked. The priest grinned evilly. "You subjects did not have enough genes to use the holy sword." Knowing that I was able to, he paused to give Kiba an evil look. "Take out the gene from the subjects." Both of them gasped in shock. Kiba's pupils shrunk. "Then we succeeded in crystallizing them." He got out a small blue fang-shaped crystal that was glowing light blue. "This contains the genes from the time in their crystallized form." Both the devils gasped once again. "Although this is the last one." Issei thought that it was sadistic and repulsive of him to do that. Kiba flinched. Freed laughed. "And all the other guys but me died halfway because they couldn't take their genes." He then slashed at Kaneko, who dodged the sword. "Since that said, I'm super duper special, huh?" The female pervert gritted her teeth and looked at the white-haired psycho, yelling, "Damn you, scumbag." Zenobia recognized it though. She explained that it was used to give wielders of the holy sword blessing, putting it into their bodies. "Those hypocrites," Valper continued. "After excommunicating me as a pagan, they shamelessly used my research. In any case, we're talking about Michael. Even if he took the genes out of the subjects, I'm sure he didn't kill them." Kiba slowly stood up, shooting a furious face at him. Issei stood up with him as well, supporting him with her arms and hands along the way. "There was no need to kill us either," he said weakly. He clenched his fists. "Why? You were all nothing but material used in a top-secret project. Once we were done, there was no other choice but to dispose of you. We believed in God and bored it the whole time," the pretty boy continued. "That was where material to be disposed of." His eyes began to well up. Everyone was shocked at the news and felt very sorry for Kiba, especially the brown-haired devil herself. Hell, she was pissed off about the fact. "Kiba-kun," she whispered. "That's terrible," Asia stated in sorrow, her eyes filling up with tears. Valper threw the crystal to Kiba. "If you want it so badly, here. We've already gotten to the point where we can mass-produce these," he stated. Issei gritted her teeth at them and was about to shout at him, but then she felt Kiba kneel down to pick the crystal up, escaping her arms. She stepped back a couple of feet since she felt he needed some space. The look on his face was of depression, which made her heart drop. She frowned at the sight. Kiba-kun, she saw him cup the crystal in his hands, close his eyes, put it on his chest, and mutter, "Everyone." She felt a lump grow from her throat. She yelled furiously at Valper, "I will never forgive you, old bastard." He only grinned at her, making her want to punch him or shoot an arrow at him, since a bow and arrow was part of her sacred gear. "Valper Galilei," muttered Kiba, causing the old man to look at him. He stood up. "Just how many lives did you toy with for your own research and desires?" The crystal then began to glow. Everyone gasped in surprise. What's that?" asked Asia as everyone walked closer to the scene. The glow then formed figures around the survivor of Project Excalibur. "People?" questioned Kaneko. "That's what it looks like," Issei murmured in awe. "It's probably the different powers from the battlefield," Akeno explained. "And the trembling of Yuuto's heart that have freed the souls from the crystal." Issei believed that as the blue figures formed into people. "I kept thinking," said Kiba in sorrow, "about whether or not it was okay for me to be alive. They were kids with more dreams than Muo wanted to live longer than me." He began to let the tears flow down his cheeks and trembled a little. "I wondered if it was okay for me to be the only one to live a peaceful life." He then shot his eyes open to see the souls of his fellow people from Project Excalibur. The little girl tugged his sleeve, making him look down at her. She looked up at him and smiled. He continued to cry, gasping a little. The souls then turned into floating orbs, flying around Kiba. He looked at them. "It's okay," said one ghost girl. "If everyone gathers up together," said another. Take us in, a ghost boy added. It's not scary, even if there is no God, said the little ghost girl. Even if God isn't watching over us, our hearts will always be, said a ghost male. Kiba looked down, closed his eyes, and smiled. One, he finished. The souls then went inside him, making him glow light blue. Akeno and Rias were smiling at the sight, feeling great for him. Haneko commented, it's heartwarming, looking like she was about to cry. The bishop had her hands wrapped in prayer, closing her eyes, smiling, and crying in joy at the sight. Issei herself was crying tears of joy as well, smiling. Kiba-kun, she whispered happily. I'm glad they're with you now. She felt her heart warm at the sight. She felt really happy for her crush. The night is peaked, said the Welsh dragon, making her look down at her gauntlet. When the user's thoughts and wishes go against the natural course of things in the world, the balance peaks. What he has now is a balance breaker. Balance breaker? She asked, seeing that the blue glowing was gone. The blonde-haired survivor then glared at the priest. My comrades didn't want me to seek revenge, he stated as he began to walk to him. That's not what they wanted. But I felt like I needed to defeat the evil before me, so there would be no other people like us. He then summoned a sword and pointed it at him, making him back away. Created anymore. Freed. Cried out Valper. The sadistic priest appeared in front of him, the strong Excalibur. Looking confident, Valper said, fool. It looks like you should dispose of yourself. Feeling the need to cheer him on, Issei shouted, Kiba-kun. The male devil then looked back at her. Kick that bastard's ass and beat that Excalibur. Don't let your comrades' feelings and wishes go to waste. Issei-chan, he whispered in surprise. Rias nodded. Do it, Yuuto, she added. You're part of my family, the Gremory household. No knight of mine will lose to an Excalibur. Yuuto-kun, I believe in you. Akeno also added. Fight. Kaneko cheered. Tiba-san. Finished Asia, crying and smiling joyfully at him. Tiba looked shocked at the peerage. Everyone, he murmured. Ah, what is this moving scene you're trying to make? Freed asked impatiently, making Kiba turn to him. Just listening makes my skin crawly, can't take it anymore. I just need to slice you up so I can feel better. Kiba closed his eyes and said, I will become a sword. Comrades whose souls have merged with mine, let's overcome this together. Our thoughts and wishes will be accomplished. He then raised his sword up, making it glow. I will become a sword for the president, Issei-chan, and my comrades. Issei blushed when he mentioned her name. Rias giggled at her response. Sword birth. The sword had white and black energy flowing around it, then had it trapped inside the sword. Sword of the Betrayer. A sword vested in both holy and devil powers. Stop it if you can. Red writing began to form on the fuller of the sword. Holy and devil powers fused into one sword, Rias asked in surprise. I see. That's Rias looked at Issei, who was speaking. The dragon inside of me told me about this, that Kiba-kun has peaked. That's Kiba-kun's balance breaker. Kiba began to walk towards Freed. Valper commented in horror and surprise, holy power and devil power fused into one, to have something in a weapon like that, it's impossible. The blue-haired Excalibur wielder walked right next to Kiba, offering him to team up with her. He agreed, but asked if it's really okay. She stated that even though the sword was holy, it won't be any longer. She then set her sword down and summoned the larger blue sword, the holy sword Durandal. She explained that it was on par with Excalibur and was told to cut everything it touches. Valper commented that it was impossible since her research didn't lead to using that sword. She replied that unlike Kiba and Arena, she's one of the few neutrals. Valper was in shock and fear of her. Freed tried to fight her with his Excalibur, but she managed to cut some pieces of it off, shocking the white-haired exorcist. She lunged for him, but he dodged, ready to attack her from behind. Kiba, though, appeared behind him, ready to kill him with the sword of the Betrayer. After engaging into a small fight, his sword broke Freed's, scaring him. It broke. He shouted in horror. As he landed on the ground and cursed Kiba, a light blue light dispersed from his shoulder, rendering him unconscious. The handsome devil panted and said, you see that? Our powers overcame Excalibur. It did, Issei whispered. How is this possible? Valper cried out. In theory, the fusion of holy and demon powers is. Kiba pointed the sword at him, making him flinch and fall down. Valper Galilei, prepare yourself. He shouted. Oh, I get it now. If the balance between the holy and devil powers are disrupted, it could be possible. Not only with the devils, but God Valper, however, was impaled by a large light spear, killing him and making him disappear, much to everyone's shock. Bakabiel was away from his throne, saying that Valper was a talented priest, his aptitude making him reach to the conclusion. Rias asked what he was trying to do, which he answered that he was bored of diversions. He asked Issei to raise the Red Dragon Emperor's power level up as much as she could and transfer it to someone. Rias asked why he would give them another chance, replying that they're ridiculous if they try to defeat him. So, it was Rias that Issei needed to transfer her power to. They both held hands and walked towards him. When her gauntlet was fully charged, she stopped, asking her master if she wants to do it. After replying with a yes, the power was transferred to her, giving her ultimate strength. However, as she used her dark crimson power to defeat Kakabiel, he blocked it, making her run out of energy and fall down. Issei got her up, but then they both saw Keno shoot lightning at the cadre level fallen angel, also blocking that as well. He stated that she had the powers of Barakiel, a fallen angel leader who was a master at lightning. The raven-haired beauty stopped shooting lightning at him, panting and sweating in exhaustion. Kakabiel laughed and said that Riaz has an amusing peerage, having the Welsh dragon, the remains of Project Excalibur, and the daughter of Barakiel herself, a Keno. Issei and Zenobia was shocked at the fact. After mouthing off the crimson-haired beauty's brother, she said that she won't let him insult her brother, the overlord, or even her servants, so he deserved death. The fallen angel landed on the ground and told her to try, reminding her that she and her peerage were facing the devil's archenemy. He insulted her, making the female pervert shout angrily at him for mouthing off both Riaz and Akeno. She told him she'll kick his ass. "Are you an idiot, woman?" he asked as he got out a light sword. "Yeah, if that's what you think," she replied angrily. "Just stay put right there." She made her bow and arrow appear. "Boosted gear. Boost," shouted the gauntlet as it glowed green. Kiba, Zenobia, and Kaneko ran to Kakabiel. "Hyoudou Issei," shouted the blue-haired holy sword wielder. "We'll buy you time." "Huh?" she asked. "You focus on powering up, Issei-chan," Kiba added. "Don't worry about us. We'll handle it." She nodded, still feeling worried about them, especially her crush. The two sword wielders tried to attack him, but he blocked their attacks. When Kaneko was going to attack him from above, he used his wings to blow them all back. Kaneko took the most damage, almost her entire clothing ripped off and skidding across the hard pavement. "Kaneko-chan," shouted Issei as she and Asia came to heal her. The man had overwhelming strength. She then raised the gauntlet's power. Boost. Meanwhile, Kakabiel slashed the ground. Kiba and Zenobia tried to block it, but the blast blew them back. Issei shielded Asia and Kaneko due to her promoting herself as the queen. "Are you okay?" she asked the blonde-haired female. She nodded. "Yeah," she replied. "What about the others?" She turned to see both sword wielders panting and sweating, never letting go of their swords. Her worry began to expand. "So you think you can keep going?" asked the fallen angel. "Very well then. Come to me with all your power." After he finished panting, Kiba yelled, "Sword birth." Many swords appeared around the cadre and stabbed him, but his wings shielded him. "Is this really the extent of your power?" he asked in a disappointed voice as he destroyed them all with his wings. Kiba then charged himself towards him. "Kiba-kun," shouted the brown-haired devil. Kakabiel, however, grabbed the tip of his sword with his fingers. He brought out another through a magic circle and was about to attack him with it, but he grabbed the tip of that with his fingers as well. "Fool," the fallen angel said. "There's more." Kiba shouted as another sword appeared, grabbing the grip with his teeth and slicing under Kakabiel's eye. He screamed and shot back a few feet, flinching from the pain. "Whoa," Issei commented. "Damn you," he shouted as he shot light energy towards him, only for it to be blocked and sliced away by Zenovia's sword. "Boost. Come on, almost there," the brown-haired devil muttered impatiently. Kakabiel smirked though and said that he was surprised to see her fighting like this, even though she lost her lord. Everyone was confused, especially Zenobia, making him laugh. Everyone shot furious glares at him. He revealed that the demon overlords didn't only die, God did as well. Everyone's pupils shrunk and they gasped. Zenobia and Asia was in utter disbelief, while the devils were completely in shock. He then revealed that all of the demon overlords and most upper-class demons were dead. Angels and fallen angels also lost most of their armies to him, making pure blood birth scarce. He stated that each faction was so helpless, they relied on humans to survive. Leaders kept this a secret because they needed the humans. Zenobia dropped to her knees, trying to process the fact that God was dead. The cadre stated that the leaders saying the war was pointless pissed him off, even if the overlords and God was dead. He was more pissed off when he said that Azazel stated that a second war was pointless. Asia, slowly standing up from the ground, asked about God's blessings. Kakabiel said that Michael, an archangel, was doing a fine job of that, taking God's place to protect angels and humans, meaning that Zenobia was useless and the blessings, prayers, and exorcisms didn't affect as much. The blonde-haired bishop fainted, making Kaneko catch her. Zenobia was surprised herself that she was still controlling herself after hearing the news. Kaneko set Asia against a tree. He stated that the balance of light and darkness is gone and he'll finish where he left off. Riaz trembled a little, stating that everything was her fault. But Issei denied that by shouting, "No." Riaz, surprised, looked at her again. "Go cry me a river. I won't let you destroy our town and kill my friends. And let me tell you this," she raised her gauntlet up. "One of my dreams is to have a hot boyfriend. I won't let you get in the way of my ambitions." Zenobia looked puzzled at why she would say that while everyone else nervously chuckled a little. Bakabiel chuckled as well. Have a hot boyfriend? He repeated, his chuckling turning into laughing. The female pervert gritted her teeth at him. Is that your wish, Welsh dragon? Then why don't you join me then? She looked confused. What? She asked in disbelief. There are plenty of candidates on my side, so you'll have a hot boyfriend before you even know it. Choose whoever you want and he's yours. Issei looked down at her feet. It sounded like a good deal to the brown-haired devil, but then there was no other hot guy she wanted to be in a relationship with other than Yuuto Kiba himself. He was perfect, he was what she wanted. She felt nervous, ready to say it in front of everyone, in front of Kiba himself. She took a deep breath, grinned and answered, but I already have the perfect candidate. He shot her a confused look as well as Zenobia and Kiba. Rias, Akeno, and Kaneko, however, knew who she was talking about, Rias and Akeno smiling. Kiba looked down at the ground, frowning. Oh really? And who is that? Kakabiel asked. She looked up and answered, the guy that gave you that bleeding scar on your face. Kiba gasped and looked up at her, blushing. What? He asked, surprised that she said that the perfect candidate for a hot boyfriend was him. Kiba? Zenobia asked as she looked at the surprised pretty boy. Him? The cadre level fallen angel questioned. Yes, Yuuto Kiba is the perfect candidate for a hot boyfriend. Issei answered proudly. Not only is he hot, but he's a nice guy and the perfect gentleman. He also cares about me like he cares for President, Vice President, Asia-chan, and Kaneko-chan. He's also usually the first to save me before anyone. I'm glad that he's my comrade. I don't want to be with any other hot guy but him. Rias and Akeno smiled and giggled while Kaneko just smiled. About time, she said. Kiba's blush grew. Issei-chan, he said. You really think that about me? The female pervert turned to him and smiled, blushing as well. Yes, Yuuto-kun. I think you're the perfect boyfriend and well she rubbed the back of her head nervously, her blushing expanding. I would like to be in a relationship with you. I cooed Rias and Akeno. Cute, Kaneko added. Yuuto smiled and stood up. Consider your dream granted, because I would also like to be in a relationship with you, Issei-chan, he replied. Now it was Issei's turn to gasp and blush, her whole face burning red. Ever since I first laid eyes on you, I always thought you were cute and pretty. Despite your perverted tendencies and potty mouth, you're a sweet girl to hang out with, not to mention that you have a strong determination and care a lot about us, even hurting yourself just to protect you and me. I like that in a girl. He chuckled and smiled at her. That's why I love you, Issei-chan. Zenobia couldn't help but smile. Her jaw dropped. She couldn't believe he loved her back. There was the kiss on her forehead before the ranking game began, but she thought it was to cheer her up, to get her mind off of what bad things might happen. To hear him say good things about her like her determination and the fact that she was both cute and pretty to him felt like she was going to faint. She smiled at him, her eyes welling up with happy tears. Kibakuni, I love you too. Oh, Rias and Akeno cooed once again. Ah, Ara, the lovebirds confessed to each other at last, the raven-haired beauty commented before giggling. Now if you two lovebirds are done, Kakabiel said, interrupting the moment. The two now lovers lost their blushes and looked at him angrily. Everyone else lost their smiles as well. Where was I? Issei-chan, Yuuto said. After we're finished with him, do you mind if we share a kiss? Issei blushed again and looked at him. A kiss? She asked. He nodded, smiling at her. We don't need to do it in front of everyone. Plus, I can kiss you deeply, if that's what you want. She gasped in surprise. She couldn't believe he offered her that. Issei's gauntlet began to glow. She raised it up and it shot circles out of it, making everyone cover their eyes. What is that? Shouted Rias. I've never seen something shine so brightly. Yuuto added in surprise. Akeno kept smiling. Sacred gears respond to their host's desires and grant them power, the raven-haired beauty explained before giggling again. Issei closed her eyes, smiling and lowering the gauntlet to her eye level. I can kiss him, she said happily. I can finally kiss Yuuto-kun. And he'll kiss me deeply. She opened her eyes and giggled, getting out her bow and arrow and pointing it at Kakabiel. I can kick your ass right now, Kakabiel. I'll take you down so I can kiss Yuuto-kun. Yuuto could only chuckle at her saying. The female pervert raised her bow and arrow up, her gauntlet shouting, explosion. Her gauntlet became longer as well as her bow, her arrow growing longer and the arrowhead getting sharper. The cadre level fallen angel, out of fear, jumped back and shot a light spear at her. She shot her arrow and broke through the spear, blowing up in front of Kakabiel, who screamed and shot back on impact. She then made her bow and arrow disappear to run and punch him several times at the face. He staggered back after her last punch. The Welsh dragon gets this powerful because his host wants to make out with a guy. He asked in shock and disbelief. Who the hell are you, bitch? Remember my name, Kakabiel. Issei shouted confidently. My name is Hyoudou Issei, the girl that kicked your ass. The lewd and unique host of the sacred gear. Rias Gremory's pawn. She then posed with confidence. Are you trying to sound cool, Issei-senpai? Kaneko asked with an unimpressed look on her face. Because you're failing on so many levels. Hyoudou chuckled again, sweat dropping a little. That's my girlfriend for you, trying to act cool, he stated. But it was what she's all about, Akeno said, giggling. That's right. Rias added. We'll only lose if we give up. Let's follow Issei's lead, everyone. Yes, President, said the devils. Zenobia readied herself for battle as well. Bacabia laughed and spread out his wings. How dare you attack me, low-class demon? He shouted to her. This is turning fun, bitch. Suddenly, a chuckle was heard and an unfamiliar male voice asked, are you having that much fun? He stopped laughing and looked up. Who goes there? He asked. Suddenly, the barrier around the school broke like glass. Everyone was shocked as they saw that and a light coming down. The light then revealed a white figure in armor, spreading his wings out. Issei's body was suddenly trembling and she wondered why. The vanishing dragon Kakabiel cried out in fear. The brown-haired girl's body tensed. The vanishing dragon Issei repeated. Then that's. The upper-class fallen angel gritted his teeth at the figure. So, you were drawn here by the red one, huh, white dragon? Her body tensed up even more. The Welsh dragon had warned her about this. Suddenly, at the speed of light, the white dragon ripped off a couple of the fallen angel's wings. What did he do? Asked a brown-haired female. Even I couldn't see that, Hyoudou replied in awe. You have the feathers of a filthy crow, the white dragon commented. Azazel's are darker, like the everlasting night. Damn you, what do you think you're playing at? Shouted Kakabiel in fury. Well, you don't need wings to go where you're going. The furious fallen angel flew up and created a gigantic light spear, only to throw it at the white dragon. However, he opened his palm, the actual dragon yelling, divide. Energy came out of the palm, shrinking the spear into nothing. The fallen angel was aghast along with Issei. The person told him that his name was Albion and that it was one of his abilities of his sacred gear. Divine dividing. Every 10 seconds, it halves the powers of anyone he touches and adds them to his own. It halves a person's powers. The female pervert asked in awe. You'd better get on with it because soon, you won't even beat a human. The Welsh dragon's host doubles their powers and transfers it to others, Rias explained. Whereas the English dragon halves its opponent's power and transfers them into its host. The legends are true, then. The white dragon man said that this was getting boring, his wings glowing. He then charged towards Kakabiel and punched him in the stomach so hard he coughed out blood, telling him that Azazel sent him to bring him back even if he kicks and screams all the way there. He then launched him up a path without letting go of him and then struck him hard into the ground, the magic circle that made the Excaliburs combine into one, go up and disappear, glittering light falling down. The white dragon man also stated that he needed the stray priest to ask him a few questions, flying to him and grabbed him. Suddenly, the red dragon asked, ignoring me, white. The white dragon person then turned to Issei, whose gauntlet was speaking. The gauntlet's talking? Asked Rias. So you were alive, Red, the person's sacred gear replied. Too bad we had to meet in a situation like this. Don't worry about it. We're destined to fight someday. Issei glared at the person. These things happen. The Welsh and English dragon speaking to each other, Rias said, awed at the sight. We'll meet again, Drake, the white dragon said. Yeah, see you later, Albion, the red dragon replied. As the white dragon person turned his back to Issei, she shouted, hey, wait. He turned his head to her. Who are you? What's the meaning of this? One needs the power to understand everything, the person answered. Grow stronger, my arch nemesis. The person then disappeared in a ray of light and shot up just when Asia woke from her unconsciousness and stood up to see that sight. Rias, said Sona, making the crimson-haired beauty turn to her. Oh. Sona. She replied. I never knew the English dragon would show up. But at least the town's safe from destruction because of him. Indeed. As the two talked to each other, Hyoudou walked to Issei and placed his hand on her cheek, making her blush. So, Issei-chan, do you want to have that kiss? He asked her, smiling. Ooh, she stuttered, blushing even more and having imaginary steam coming out of her ears. Not right now. How about when we get home? He nodded. That's fine. His smile then disappeared. He looked down. So, it's all over, huh? The female pervert lost a little of her blush. But then people are still furthering that man's research. My fight still isn't. Issei shook her head. No, Hyoudou-kun. It's over, she interrupted, making him look up at her. Her blush grew. That old bastard is dead and you're reunited with your old comrades, aren't you? Can you call that a happy ending? He smiled at her and kissed her forehead, making her whole face red. I guess I can, he replied as his free hand held hers gently. She smiled, lacing her fingers with his. Wait. Shouted Asia as she ran to the two lovers. Why did Kiba-san kiss your forehead again? And why are you two holding hands? She gasped. Does that mean? Both lovers laughed a little. Issei rubbed the back of her head. Will ye? She replied. We're in love with each other, Asia-chan, the blonde pretty boy added. The bishop gasped again and blushed. Why it when did you two? Kaneko walked to her and answered, while you were out, they confessed their love for each other after Kakebile asked Issei-senpai to join his side and gave her an offer. The bishop began to freak out. Why how could have missed that? I wished I woke up earlier. I wanted to see them confess. Asia then calmed down and smiled at the two. Well, I'm glad that you two are a couple now, Issei-san and Kiba-san. The three giggled. Issei was worrying about Asia, hearing the news of God being dead and all, but she was happy and the devil herself well, she has never felt so happy in her life. Now Kiba was her boyfriend. She loved him and he loved her. What more could she ask? After her lover has been accepted back into the house of Gremory, Issei brought Kiba to her home with Riaz and Asia after his 1000 spankings for being self-centered and Asia healing his bottom after. After a long talk with her parents, he was able to stay the night with her, even though her father was mighty concerned about Kiba, despite him saying that he won't do anything raunchy with her. Now, there they are. The female devil in her pink pajamas with Yuuto embracing her from behind, shirtless and wearing her father's pajama pants he borrowed. She felt a blush run through her cheeks. Despite so much happening as of the day, it had to be the best day of her life. One of her dreams was achieved. To get a hot boyfriend. Now all there was is to become a powerful upper-class demon. Oh, and have a reverse harem of servants, though she wouldn't do perverted things to them. After all, her heart belonged to Yuuto Kiba, and with his consent, she can do perverted things to him. That suddenly made her think of something. They haven't shared that promised kiss yet. Without a second thought, she said, Yuuto-kun. Suddenly, she knew that it was super late at night, yet she woke him up from saying that. The blonde-haired male stirred and opened his eyes. What's the matter, Issei-chan? He asked wearily. Damn it, Issei. She thought angrily to herself, pouting. Think before you speak. He rested his head on her shoulder, making her blush grow, and looked at her. Is something bothering you? She shook her head, then she stopped. Willie just realized we hadn't gotten that promised kiss yet, she admitted. He gasped. Oh. That's right. He then sat up on the bed, Issei doing the same thing, surprised he would kiss her late at night. He placed his hand on her cheek, making her blush expand even more and her body shiver a little. He looked concerned. Are you nervous? He asked. Issei giggled nervously, nodding. He never kissed anybody before, she said quietly, feeling embarrassed. He smiled at her, however, and chuckled a little. Believe me, I haven't kissed anybody before either, he stated, making Issei gasp. But after seeing some movies, I think I get the gist of it. So, do you want it to be soft or deep? Issei gulped. He did say he got the gist of kissing, so she was a bit relieved. She just hoped it wasn't awkward. Let's start with soft, she answered. Then I'm treat to make it deep. Since she watched a lot of 18+ yaoi, she always wanted to know what a deep kiss felt like. As you wish, my love, Yuuto said, his hand moving to gently grab her chin before slowly pressing his lips against hers. They were warm and soft, feeling great against a female devil's lips. She closed her eyes as she melded into the kiss. Her body felt warmed by his kiss while her mind went in a frenzy. She was enjoying it a little too much, becoming a little too desperate to deepen the kiss. But at the same time, she didn't Kiba to feel uncomfortable with her deepening the kiss. She decided to kiss him back, surprising him a little and wrapping her arms around his neck. For a bit of revenge, he surprised her by licking her lower lip, making her gasp and open her eyes. They broke the kiss, panting a little. She ran her fingers through her lower lip. Yuuto smiled a little. Sorry, he said. You surprised me by kissing me back, so I took it a little further to surprise you. Her face turned red and she playfully hit her lover on the shoulder. Idiot, she said in a tsundere manner, making him chuckle. Well, do you want to continue, Issei-chan? He asked. She absolutely loved the kiss, so she nodded, making him press his lips against hers once more, this time a little harder. They both embraced each other tightly while making out, their chests brushing against each other, and the male devil's fingers running through the female devil's long brown hair. As promised, the blonde-haired pretty boy deepened their kiss by letting his tongue into her mouth. She moaned a little as they were passionately making out. Kiba gently pushed her down on the bed, keeping his lips locked with hers. She was having some naughty thoughts in her head when he did that, grinning against his lips, making him laugh against hers. She let go of his embrace and began to run her fingers down his chest, making him tremble a little at her touch. She thought happily, bingo. However, the male devil used one hand to gingerly go under her shirt and caress her back, making her tremble to his touch. As much as Issei loved the feel of that, she felt like it was enough. She felt a little tired just making out with Yuuto anyway. She gently broke the kiss, a string of saliva connecting between their lips, as they both panted for air. Issei broke the string with her finger though and giggled a little, making Yuuto chuckle. I enjoyed that, she stated shyly. Yuuto caressed her cheek and smiled. I did as well, beautiful. That turned out better than expected, he said. Issei could only blush very hard and smile a little at his compliment. Yeah. You seem to be a natural. He leaned down to give her a quick peck on the lips. Thanks. He then laid down next to her and embraced his lover as she did to him. I love you, Issei-chan, he said to her in a sweet voice. There's nobody else I'd rather be with. She thought that was good, never going to worry about him cheating on her. Besides, she felt the same about Yuuto himself. I love you too, Yuuto-kun. There's no other hot guy I'd rather be with. He smiled and kissed her cheek. Good night, my love, the blonde-haired guy said as he closed his eyes and went to sleep. She smiled and mustered up the courage to kiss his cheek as well. Good night, handsome, she said as she closed her eyes and began dreaming. As much as she hated to admit it, she was glad Rainer came into her life. If she hadn't, well, she wouldn't be with Kiba and she would be forever alone watching 18+ yaoi with Aika for the rest of her life. Besides, her life had gotten more exciting now that she was a devil now. She would never wish to leave this life, even if she was forced to. To see that her contract was with the commander of the fallen angels himself, Azazel Issei Hyoudou didn't know how to react to that exactly. He also stated that he was interested in her boosted gear, her gauntlet, bow, and arrow. Telling Riaz about it worried her since her reaction wasn't too happy. He did mention of a summit meeting with angels, fallen angels, and devils, and Riaz did confirm it for everyone. Worrying about Azazel going after her boosted gear, Riaz assured her that she'll protect her at all costs, being the sisterly figure she was. Yuuto made the promise to her as well, being her lover and all. Issei thanked them both for their promises. But with that issue aside, the occult research club had to clean a pool. The pool was all dirty and disgusting to look at. You muttered the female pervert, almost cringing at the sight. The kendo giggled at her reaction. This pool hasn't been used since last year, she stated. So need to clean this up. Zenobia, now a reincarnated devil, looked confused. Why does the occult research club need to clean up a pool? She asked. Well, this was originally the student council's job, Riaz replied. However, we needed to repay them for their help during the Kakabiel affair. She looked at her group. In return, our club will use it right after we clean it. Issei's face flushed red. Wait. We get to use it immediately? She thought, a lecherous smile creeping upon her face. Oh my god. I should thank Lady Luck for me getting to see Yuuto-kun in a swimsuit today. She imagined her boyfriend in many sexy men's swimsuits. Hooray for pool cleaning. She raised her fists in the air, almost making everyone, including Yuuto himself, giggle. You have your perverted face on, Issei-senpai Kaneko stated, making her snap out of her thoughts. Posing confidently, the red-haired beauty claimed, in the name of the occult research club she began. We will make the pool area so neat and tidy that it will knock the socks off of the student council. Yes, ma'am. Replied the whole peerage in confidence. Issei was the most excited since she was going to see Yuuto in a swimsuit for the first time. Yuuto himself, however, hoped that his choice in swimwear was good enough for her. He also wanted to see how Issei herself looks in a nice bathing suit. As the pretty boy began to change into his gym outfit for cleaning, he thought about Issei. She was cute, beautiful even. She was his ideal girl in looks and personality. To have her hurt or even kill it wouldn't know what to do if that happened to her. He put on a solemn and determined face. From now on, he swore to protect her. It would be hard to tell her that with everyone else around, but he seriously swore to that. She saved him after all. What kind of knight and boyfriend would he be if he hadn't returned the favor? Definitely not the one that belongs in House Gremory. He placed his hand on his chest. I'll protect you, Issei-chan, he said quietly, closing his eyes and mesmerizing her. From anything that comes our way, my way or your way, I'll protect you from all of it. I promise you that you'll never get hurt or killed. He opened his eyes, looking at the ground, and smiled. Issei-chan. As he was changing, the girls were changing into their gym uniforms as well. Issei felt a little weird undressing in front of a bunch of other women. But they were fine with it, so she was relieved about that. As she was changing, she imagined Yuuto in different kinds of men's swimsuits like speedos, swimming trunks. Fundicious couldn't help but put on her perverted look when thinking about it. You have your perverted face again, Issei-senpai, Kaneko said, unimpressed about her doing that. The kendo giggled again. Even if she has a boyfriend now, she'll still be having lewd thoughts about him, she stated. She always does this? Asked Zenobia. You have no idea, Riaz answered. She then realized something, gasping a little. Oh. That's right. She then walked to her bag and dug through it. She then pulled out something and hid it behind her back. Issei. The brown-haired devil snapped out of her perverted thoughts about her boyfriend and looked at the red-haired devil, tying her own shoes. Yes, President, she replied. So, Asia and I might have went shopping and found you this. She then showed her white bikini with a plain butterfly cut top and a frilly skirt with a Brazilian cut bottom under it to her. We both thought it suited you, so we bought it and I brought it here for you to try on. Issei was absolutely surprised at this. Ria's was a sisterly figure to her, yes, but she never thought she and Asia would buy her a swimsuit just for her to wear. Besides, it actually looked pretty cute. After tying her shoes, she stood up and smiled at her. Thanks, President. She then turned to Asia, who just put on her gym shorts. And thank you too, Asia-chan. The blonde bishop closed her eyes and smiled at her. You're welcome, Issei-san. I knew you would like it. I spotted it first and President likes it as well. Ara, the raven-haired beauty interrupted. But I also bought a swimsuit for you, Issei-chan. Everyone looked at her with a puzzled look. To prove what she said, she dug into her purse and also got out a swimsuit. Unlike Ria's and Asia's innocent-looking one however, it was black and had a bandeau top with red accents on it and a thong bottom with red accents on it. Everyone tensed up at the sight of that, especially Issei. What? She exclaimed. The Keno closed her eyes and giggled once more. I bought this for you because I thought, why not move your relationship with Yuuto-kun a little forward? This will definitely catch his attention. Issei blushed a little. She didn't want to wear it, but then she thought is Yuuto-kun a bit of a pervert himself? What if he was? He better not be looking at other girls' panties. But then would he like it more if I wear a Keno-san's bikini? But then I don't want to hurt President's and Asia-chan's feelings. The Keno Ria said in disapproval, making the raven-haired queen look at her. They've only been in a relationship since yesterday. She smirked. So? She can propel the relationship a bit further with this bikini early. Asia looked torn though. Hyoudou spent both our money on that and it was a lot of money. She turned to her. Ara, I also spent a lot on this as well. Issei, feeling awkward that there was an argument erupted because of the Keno, she quickly exited out the room and closed the door. Why Issei? Ria shouted surprisingly behind the door. Think about it. She shouted through the door. I'll see you guys in a bit. She then walked away and sighed. She wanted to wear Ria's and Asia's swimsuit since she was close to them, but she wanted to wear a Keno's as well to see if Yuuto will, if he likes her in a bikini like that. Wait, Yuuto. He was changing, right? Since he's changing, did that mean? Issei could only smile her perverted smile and think, he must be half naked. I must see. She then quickly snuck to the door to make sure he didn't spot her. After about half a minute, she looked through it and saw him in his light-colored briefs. She blushed and nosebleed a little. Oh man looks so good in his underwear. Maybe I should ask for him to cuddle with me in his underwear next time. However, sharp pain shot through her left arm, making her grunt and sit next to the door. She saw that her arm was forming into her gauntlet. What? She asked in shock. No way, Akeno-senpai sucked all of it away a few days ago. Why is it doing this? Akeno, well, she had to suck her finger to scatter it all, but it wasn't like she was slurping it or anything. The middle of her left hand glowed green, and Drake stated, I believe I told you to be wary of a great power. The great power? She raised her left hand up to her eye level. You came in contact with the commander of the fallen angels, he continued. He's an extremely powerful being, so of course it led to this. She sighed. Power begets power, you know. She then looked back at the door to the ladies' changing room. So that was who you were talking about? She questioned quietly. She had to go back into the girls' changing room. She hated to not see more Yuuto's half-nakedness, but this was quite serious, and she needed a Keno to scatter it all again. She then tried to stand up, trying to ignore the pain coursing through her arm, but then sat back down when it hurt more. As she did though, she heard the door to the men's changing room open, making her freeze at the spot. Issei-chan? Asked no other than Yuuto himself. She heard him gasp. He probably saw her arm. She looked up at him, seeing him in his gym pants but shirtless, her face turning red at the sight. Issei-chan. He then ran to her and placed his hands on her shoulders. Are you alright? She murmured a little, looking away from his eyes. A little she was surprised that he stopped changing just to know if she was fine. He then placed his hands on her cheeks, making her blush even more. I heard you grunt. I'll go get President and Akeno-san. However, those two ladies entered outside to see her and her arm. Oh no, Ria's muttered, her face turning serious. It looks like Akeno needs to suck out the dragon's spiritual energy away again. Wait, really? Issei asked as she looked up at the women. Akeno closed her eyes and smiled at her. I'll do whatever I can for you. No worries. Thank you. She then looked back at Yuuto. He gave her a reassuring smile and patted her head. I'd better soon, he said as he kissed her lips for a few seconds. She couldn't help but smile at him. He then stood up and went back to the men's changing room. Ria said in the girls' room, Asia. Zenobia. Change quick. Issei and Akeno needs to be in here alone. Asia gasped. What happened to Issei-san? She asked in worry. It's nothing serious, but you two need to change and get out. Yes, ma'am, replied the two ladies. When the ladies' changing room was empty and Issei and Akeno went inside, the peerage drained out the pool and began to clean it. Kaneko was spraying water over it while everyone else was cleaning it. Yuuto was worrying while he was working, however. Not only was he worrying about his girlfriend's arm, but also what Akeno might be doing to her. He knew well enough that Issei wasn't a lesbian due to the rumors spreading around Kuo Academy, but with Akena just had a really bad feeling about her with Issei. No, she couldn't, he thought. Even if she was like that, she wouldn't do anything to Issei-chan, especially since she's my girlfriend. He looked up at the clouds, however. Still, he can't stop thinking about it. He had respected Akeno for a very long time and still does, but his worry still set place in his mind. Rias was worrying about the two being alone together as well. However, unlike Yuuto, she was actually worrying if Akeno might convince her into wearing that skimpy bikini she brought. In the girls' changing room, the raven-haired beauty was finished sucking on the female pervert's finger and sat next to her. She got out the bikini she had from her purse and smiled. "So, Issei-chan. Have you decided yet?" she asked. "Oh, alright," the bikini she said as she shook her head. "No, not yet." Akeno frowned a little. "Oh, alright." She then smiled. That made her question why she would buy a swimsuit for her. "Hey, Akeno-senpai?" she asked. "Yes, Issei-chan. Why did you buy me a bikini? I mean, I would know why Ria-senpai and Asia-chan would buy me one, but I would never see you buy one for me." "Oh." She giggled. "When you were human, there was one time when the whole peerage wandered around the whole town to pass the time. I caught Yuuto-kun looking at a mannequin wearing this very bikini." She held up the bikini and giggled once again. "Also, when we were attacked by the slime when we were looking for familiars, I spotted him looking at your half-nakedness while you were trying to save us. I assumed he could be a bit perverted. I knew it." The brown-haired devil thought before blushing. "Wait. He was checking me out half-naked at the time. I thought about it yesterday when you and Yuuto finally confessed to each other. So last night, I went to that very store with a bikini and bought it. You would actually look quite pretty in it, to be honest." She rested her cheek on her own palm. Issei did want to wear it for Yuuto, but then she would actually feel uncomfortable wearing it. After all, Ria's and Asia's bikini was much cuter and she would feel more comfortable wearing it. Yuuto would still love her, no matter what she wore, right? She didn't want to break Akeno's feelings, but she had to. "It was very nice of you to buy it for me, Akeno-senpai," she began, making her smile. But her smile then slipped away. "It's not really the type of bikini I'd like to wear." "Oh really?" She nodded at her. "I'm sorry, I know you spent a lot of money on it, but you can keep it." She then smiled at her. "You might get a boyfriend in the future and he might like you in it." Akeno actually gasped and blushed at the thought. She looked down at it. If she had a boyfriend that would love to see her in the bikini if she could. If she ever revealed her true form to a male, she licked it and he would accept her. She began to smile at the thought and brought the bikini closer to her chest. She closed her eyes and kept her smile. She exhaled happily. "My future boyfriend," she murmured happily. Issei, however, was oblivious about this and looked at her with a puzzled look. Akeno-senpai?" she asked. The dark-haired beauty then snapped out of her thoughts. Oh. Well, you have a point, Issei-chan," she replied as she began to smile. She smiled back. At least Akeno wouldn't force her to wear it now. "You'll never convince her to wear that bikini," shouted Rias as she opened the door to the room. The two girls tensed up to see not only the red-haired devil herself, but also Kiba. Why exactly was he there with her as well? "Don't do anything to her, Akeno-senpai," he shouted to Akeno. Both of them sweat dropped. I don't understand what you two are talking about," exactly the raven-haired devil said in a puzzled voice. "Me neither," Issei added. Now the two other devils were confused. "Why do you mean that Akeno wasn't convincing you to wear it?" asked Rias to Issei. "Or do other things to you?" added Kiba. "What do you mean, other things?" she asked him. Well, he looked away and frowned. "Yuuto talked to me, and we both thought that maybe she would do." She blushed a little and looked down. "Intimate things to you to convince you to wear it," Issei and Akeno tensed up. Akeno could only giggle nervously. I would never do such a thing to Issei-chan, you two know me." Issei frowned at the two of them as well. "We were just talking about things, that's all," she replied to the both of them. "You two know me well enough that I'm not into other girls." "I know that," Rias murmured. "I know that too," but Yuuto began to trail off, feeling embarrassed now that he realized that his thought wasn't the case. The brown-haired female saw the embarrassment on his face. She thought that he was probably just worrying about her. It was actually nice of him to think of that. He must really love her. Issei stood up, walked to Yuuto, and hugged him, smiling. The blonde-haired knight gasped a little. "It's alright, Yuuto-kun," she said reassuringly. "I'd never let anyone do intimate things to me but you." He smiled back at her and hugged her back. "Aw," cooed both Rias and Akeno. I guess we need to put this under the bridge," the dark-haired beauty said. "All of you go ahead. I'll be out to clean in a second. I just need to put this in my bag." Issei and Yuuto broke their hug. The couple and Rias nodded. Hurry up then, Ria said as they all went outside and closed the door. Akeno looked down at the bikini again, smiled, closed her eyes, and hugged it close to her chest, thinking about her ideal man. If some man would accept her, pleasure her, love her, my own boyfriend, she whispered, happily sighing. She then put the bikini back into her purse. I do hope to get one someday, she giggled and exited the girls' changing room to help clean the pool. Soon, the pool was all cleaned up and everyone was dressed in their swimsuits. Akeno was wearing a red and light blue bandeau bikini, similar to the one she bought for Issei and summoned water. It covered the whole pool. Issei awed at the sight. Amazing. She exclaimed. She was wearing the bikini Rias and Asia bought for her. Asia wore a navy blue one-piece school swimsuit as well as Kaneko, only the white-haired devil wore a white swimming cap on her head. Asia told Issei that Zenobia wasn't there because she had trouble putting on her swimsuit. Rias was wearing a white bikini with a butterfly cut top and a bandeau bikini bottom. It looked like a bikini version of a Greek women's dress. Come now, she announced to everyone. Let's swim to our heart's content. Don't forget about me. Yelled Yuuto, who just got out of the men's changing room with a green speedo on. He also had a swimming cap and goggles on his head. Issei blushed at the sight. Her usual perverted face went on. Yuuto-kun looked so hot in that speedo. She thought. He walked towards her and smiled. I guess you like my swimsuit, huh? He asked. Yes. She replied before losing her perverted face. She put her hands behind her back and asked him, do you like my swimsuit? He nodded and held her hands. I do. You look beautiful in it. The brown-haired devil's face turned red. Really, she then smiled at him. Thanks, Yuuto-kun. Oh, could Asia. Rias and Akeno only giggled while Kaneko just smiled. Later, everyone was in the pool, swimming, splashing water to each other, and playing with a beach ball with each other. Rias, Akeno, and Yuuto were swimming while Issei, Asia, and Kaneko were playing with a beach ball. However, while they were playing with it, Yuuto surprised everyone, especially Issei, when he surfaced out of the water and carried his perverted girlfriend piggyback style. The girls gasped while Issei just blushed and laughed. They both then shared a kiss with each other before he decided to stay and see the girls play ball once again. Soon, most of the girls, including the pretty boy himself, were out of the water and laying on towels. Kaneko and Rias laid on their bellies while Asia, Issei, and Yuuto were laying on their backs. The lovebirds were sharing the same towel with each other. While the other girls were taking a nap, Issei and Yuuto looked up at the sky. It is pretty nice out, isn't it? Asked the blonde-haired devil. The brown-haired girl nodded. Yeah. Since everyone else was asleep and Akeno was busy swimming, Yuuto decided to tell what he thought about in the changing room. Issei-chan? He asked, looking at her. She turned her head towards her lover. Yes, Yuuto-kun. She replied. He closed his eyes, sighed, and pulled her close to him, making her face paint red when her head was on his chest. Yuuto-kun. She had no idea why he was doing this. Yuuto rested his head on the female pervert's head and said, this is hard to say with everyone around, but since most of them are sleeping and Akeno-san is swimming, he paused and held her tighter. Issei-chan, I swear with my life to protect you from anything that comes our way. You have saved me after all. What kind of knight and boyfriend would I be if I let get severely hurt or even killed? He paused to raise her head up to him. I can't be either if I don't return the favor. He smiled at her and cupped her cheek. I wouldn't know what to do if you were dead or severely hurt, my love. Please know that I'll always protect you from anything that will harm you. She blushed. Yuuto was going to protect her like a knight. It was almost as if she were a lucky princess to have a hot knight like him protecting her. Yet at the same time, what if the reverse happened to him? She loved him, she also wouldn't know what to do if he were severely injured or even killed. She looked up to her lover. Thanks, Yuuto-kun. He smiled at her. But his smile then disappeared. She cupped his cheek. I want to protect you too. I don't want you to be very hurt or dead either protecting me. I wouldn't even know what to do if you died. How about I protect you and you protect me? He smiled at her once more. That's a great idea, he replied to her, making her smile. As long as we're both okay. They then shared a loving kiss. Both were relieved about the mutual protection they were going to give to each other. Oh. Kutakeno. The two broke their kiss, sat up, and looked at her, crouching and water dripping from her body. Both blushed. Akeno-senpai. Exclaimed Issei. She rested the palm of her hand on her cheek. That was so romantic and caring of you to tell Issei-chan that you'll protect her, Yuuto-kun. Wait, you heard everything? He asked, embarrassed and confused. She closed her eyes and smiled. Yes. And it was so cute when you told him that you'd protect him as well, Issei-chan. She looked away and felt bashful. Akeno-senpai. She giggled before looking at Yuuto. I guess you could say that you're not only a knight of Ria's Grimory's peerage, but she then looked at Issei. You're also Issei's knight. Her knight? Questioned the pretty boy. By knight, the female pervert thought. The idea has crossed her mind not too long ago, but now, it has a nice ring to it. After all, a knight does protect his princess after all. And the princess can protect him as well since she knows how to fight. Yuuto smiled at her. That actually doesn't sound bad, Akeno-san. Issei nodded in agreement. Yeah. She giggled. I'll be on my way then. Take care, lovebirds. She then stood up, turned around, and began to walk back to the pool. However, her eyes had a bit of sadness in them, and her smile disappeared only a little. She was still thinking about getting a boyfriend, viewed in a different negative way. I actually like that analogy Akeno-san talked about, Yuuto stated, holding his lover's hands and looking at her. I will not only be Ria's Gremory's knight, but yours as well, my love. He then kissed her knuckles, making her face all red. She giggled and wrapped her arms around his neck. And I won't be just Ria's Gremory's pawn, she replied with a smile. I'll also be your princess, handsome. My beautiful princess. The pretty boy wrapped his arms around her waist. My handsome knight. Their faces leaned in, and they were about to kiss once more. Hyoudou-san, Kiba-kun, interrupted Zenovia's voice. Both shot back and looked up at the blue-haired female. She was wearing a skimpy green bandeau bikini. Zenovia-chan? Asked Yuuto. Excuse me, Kiba-kun, but I need to talk to Hyoudou-san privately. The brown-haired girl looked confused. What for? It's something I'd only want to talk to you about. Issei sighed. If it's that important. She then looked at her boyfriend and frowned. Sorry, Yuuto-kun. He smiled reassuringly at her. It's alright, Issei-chan. I can wait. She smiled at him, let go of him, and stood up. She then walked with Zenovia to the bathroom. The former exorcist leaned on a stall. So, what did you want to talk about, Zenovia? Asked a brown-haired devil. Wait, actually, before you answer, what took you so long? Zenovia sighed. This is the first time I've ever put on a swimsuit, so it took me a while, she replied before spreading her arms out and smiling. How do I look? She looked at her bikini. She didn't really like it, but it fitted her, so she said, it looks fine. But this is your first time? Was it because you were in the church? She let her arms down and returned to her usual solemn-looking face. No, it's actually because I had no interest in these amusements. Issei sighed. Still, you took way too long. To be honest, I've been mulling over things after I got changed. Really? She nodded. Hi to Issei. I have a question to ask you. She smiled at her. You can just call me Issei, Zenovia, she requested. And what's the question? Zenovia closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Alright, Issei. Here we go. She then looked up at her and asked, do you know any men I can make babies with? End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends.